I believe it's safe to say that most of us are aware of the miracles that Moses performed throughout the book of Exodus. And I also hope it's also safe to say that most of us know that Moses was only able to perform those miracles through the power of God and not because he had a magic stick. I really hope we all know that second one, but I digress. You probably all know about the 10 plagues and the parting of the Red Sea, as well as the incident of manna falling from heaven. But are you aware of when Moses spent so much time in the presence of God that when he descended back down from Mount Saini, his face was literally glowing so bright that the people were afraid to look at him if he didn't put a veil over his face? Yeah. Exodus 34 tells us about the shining face of Moses, and I didn't come up with that term, but I got it from Biblia's subsection heading of the ESV Bible. Why exactly was Moses' face shining? Well, we'll be discussing the entire thing in this installment of Unsung Bible Stories, where we present to you stories in the Bible you probably haven't heard about and are rarely preached or oversimplified in a church sermon. If the Bible was an anime, these would be the filler episodes that everyone skips over, trying to get to the main plot point episodes. If you are enjoying the video thus far, then why not consider leaving a like and subscribing for more installments of this series. But with that out of the way, let's dive into Exodus chapter 34, and I'll be reading from the ESV. When Moses came down from Mount Saini with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hand, as he came down from the mountain, Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone, because he had been talking with God. Aaron and all the people of Israel saw Moses, and behold, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come near him. But Moses called to them, and Aaron and all the leaders of the congregation returned to him. And Moses talked with them. Afterward, all the people of Israel came near, and he commanded them all that the Lord had spoken with him in Mount Saini. And when Moses had finished speaking with them, he put a veil over his face. Whenever Moses went in before the Lord to speak with him, he would remove the veil until he came out. And when he came out and told the people of Israel what he was commanded, the people of Israel would see the face of Moses. The skin of Moses' face was shining. And Moses would put the veil over his face again until he went in to speak with him. So that's a really short passage of the occasion, but let's get some context pulling from various Christian commentary sources. When God began to give the law to Israel, he did so accompanied by an overwhelming atmospheric display of thunder and lightning, smoke and fire, and the sound of a trumpet on the top of Mount Saini. This was to warn the people that he is holy and should not be approached. Anyone who tried to come up the mountain would be killed. When God delivers the 10 commandments, the people of Israel are so frightened that they are afraid to have God speak. They ask that Moses deliver the law instead, as we see in Exodus 20. So Moses approaches God and receives the law in Exodus 21 to 23. He delivers it to the people who are called to affirm their willingness to obey in chapter 24. In Exodus 25 to 31, Moses goes up to the mountain and receives the plans for the tabernacle and the tablets of stone on which God had engraved the 10 commandments. Upon his return to the Israelite camp, Moses finds the Israelites worshipping the golden calf in violation of the law they had just agreed to. Israelites again. In anger, Moses smashes the stone tablets to bits and proceeds to address this sin in the camp, as you see in chapter 32. After the sin had been dealt with, God invites Moses to come back up the mountain to receive the law again, engraving on new tablets of stone. Moses goes up the mountain alone and meets with God. There he begs for pardon for the nation. God forgives and renews the covenant with Israel and once again provides a summary form of the law, the 10 commandments. Moses spends 40 days and 40 nights with God on the mountain, and during that time he did not eat or drink. It seems that the glory of God sustained him. After spending this extended amount of time with God, Moses comes down the mountain and his face is shining with the glory of God. We don't know exactly what this would have looked like, but it was frightening to his brother Aaron, the high priest, and to all the rest of the people, because everyone was afraid to come near Moses. He wore a veil over his face to shroud the glory. We are not told how long this lasted, but presumably the glory began to fade when Moses was no longer regularly going into the presence of God. How long Moses wore the veil is unknown, but the veil is not mentioned during the remaining years of his leadership, which is roughly 38 years. That honestly is like one of my favorite scriptures from the entire saga of Moses, because it's like Moses spent so much time with God that his face began to glow. The depiction of the Action Bible for me is how I saw it in my head, and it's just like, it's a wow, spending so much time in God's presence, like literal back then, that you literally begin to glow with the glory of God. That's so cool. But with that, we'll end off this installment of Unsung Bible Stories. If you watch at this point in the video, then why not consider leaving a like on it and subscribing with post notifications, and even sharing the channel with others. On the channel, we primarily break down Christian and non-Christian fictional stories with emphasis on those that have some sort of Christian theme or comic panels like these. A man of faith. Was it Moses' burning bush? Was it akin to Constantine's vision of the true cross? Somehow both, something else. As a man of faith, I had no answers, but now as a mutant of faith, I understand perfectly. But we also make more generalized Christian content like this, as well as an initiative to do Christian creative projects ranging from making replicas of different places in the Bible to recreating scenes from Christian fictional films into a small-scale video game. We actually have an ongoing project making the fight scene from the Pilgrim Progress into a video game in Unreal Engine, streaming the progress every Friday from 7 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time right here on the channel. If you're looking for something else to watch on the channel, then I highly recommend you check out our video on the fastest man in the Bible.